the topic of lecture 6 was taxation. So I gave you an introduction into a very large topic that is taxation. But there are many subtopics within that field that we could not look into in this course. But I highly encourage you to look into when you take more advanced courses in public economics. So there's lots of interesting things to talk about when it comes to corporate taxation, when it comes to wealth taxation, capital taxation, international tax competition, and so on. But many of the principles of optimal taxation that we've talked about in this lecture also apply to other types of taxes. So what are the main takeaways from lecture 6? First of all, the statutory and economic incidence of taxes differ a lot. That's what we've seen at the start. So it does not matter economically which party transfers the funds to the exchequer or on which side of the market the tax is levied. What matters is who bears the economic cost. And that depends crucially on what side of the market has it easier to substitute away. So I gave the example of workers. If workers have a very low labor supply elasticity, so it's very hard for them to move to a different job, then obviously if income gets taxed, if there's a payroll tax, for example, firms, even if it's levied with firms, they can pass this tax on very much to their workers in terms of lower net wages. Whereas if the workers can easily move away, then the firms do not have much scope of passing on that tax, and so they bear most of the tax burden. Now, in the second part of the lecture, we talked then about optimal taxation. So the idea is if we have equity and efficiency concerns, and if we have market participants that have a differential or that differ in their ability to substitute away, what is the optimal amount of taxation? And we learned the Ramsey rule, so the inverse elasticity rule that again factors in this ability to substitute away. And what we also then learn is what's crucial to optimal taxation and crucial to understanding the effect of taxation on society is to factor in or to understand behavioral responses. We are talking here about humans, and humans respond to changes in the environment, and they may not always respond exactly how we think they do in our models, but they most likely change their behavior if, for example, their income gets taxed a lot compared to a situation where it gets taxed very little. Now, how those behavioral responses work depends on those two effects that are quite complex. So the substitution effect, meaning that relative prices change, and that then changes the amount of either good that people consume or how much they work and how much they consume. Whereas then there is also an income effect that if one of the two goods, consumption or leisure, becomes all of a sudden a lot more expensive, that is equivalent to people all of a sudden having a lot less disposable income, and that can actually induce them to work more. And so which of these effects dominates is theoretically ambiguous and also very hard to show empirically. But the bottom line here is taxation is a very interesting field because you have obviously so many different factors that go into optimal taxation. So you have people's preferences for redistribution, you have the desire to limit the amount of behavioral responses, to limit the efficiency losses that may be the result of the tax system. And so that's why the tax system changes all the time. And it's very, very important to be up to date when it comes to all these developments and to regularly follow the news and follow the public debate.